My husband was caught having an intimate lunch with his coworker at an upscale restaurant, holding hands and feeding each other dessert, but when I confronted him he said I'm allowed to have female friends, you're being controlling and insecure about normal friendships, so I hired a private investigator who discovered their weekend getaways and hotel receipts. I'm Samantha, 29, and I work as a veterinarian at a busy animal hospital in Austin, Texas. My husband Christopher, 32, is a senior financial advisor at a prestigious investment firm downtown, and we've been married for 4 years. For most of our marriage, I thought we had a solid relationship built on trust and mutual respect. Christopher had always been supportive of my demanding career, which often involves emergency surgeries and long hours with sick animals, and I was equally supportive of his ambitious goals in the finance world. Our relationship had its normal ups and downs, but nothing that seemed unusual for a busy couple managing demanding careers. Christopher traveled occasionally for client meetings and conferences, and I sometimes had to work overnight shifts at the clinic during busy periods or medical emergencies. We'd established good communication habits and always made time for each other despite our hectic schedules. Christopher had always been naturally charismatic and social, which served him well in his client-facing role. He was the kind of person who could strike up conversations with strangers and make business connections at networking events. I'd always admired this quality in him, even though I'm more of an introvert who prefers quiet conversations with close friends to large social gatherings. About 8 months ago, Christopher started mentioning a new colleague named Melissa who had joined his firm as a junior financial advisor. He'd occasionally bring up funny stories from work that involved her, or mention that she'd contributed good ideas during team meetings. At first, I thought nothing of it. Christopher had female colleagues before, and I'd never felt threatened by his professional relationships. However, over the past few months, I'd started noticing some changes in Christopher's behavior that made me slightly uncomfortable, though I couldn't pinpoint exactly why. He'd started mentioning Melissa more frequently in his work stories, often praising her intelligence and describing her as really sharp or surprisingly insightful for someone so new to the industry. Christopher had also started working later more often, claiming that he was mentoring Melissa and helping her learn the ropes with complex client portfolios. When I'd suggest having dinner together or making plans for the weekend, he'd sometimes say he needed to help Melissa prepare for important presentations or review her work on challenging cases. I tried not to read too much into these changes because I trusted Christopher and knew that mentoring junior colleagues was part of his senior role at the firm. Plus, I understood demanding work schedules from my own experience in veterinary medicine. Still, something felt different about the way he talked about Melissa compared to how he discussed other colleagues in the past. The shift became more noticeable when Christopher started paying more attention to his appearance. He began spending extra time getting ready in the mornings, experimenting with new cologne, and buying more expensive clothes than usual. When I complimented him on looking nice, he'd say he was trying to maintain a more professional image now that he was in a senior position and working with important clients. Christopher also became more protective of his phone during this period. He'd previously been casual about leaving it around the house, but I noticed he started keeping it face down on tables and taking it with him to the bathroom or kitchen when he used to leave it charging in our bedroom. If it buzzed while he was in another room, he'd quickly go check it rather than asking me to see what the notification was about. 3 weeks ago, everything changed when my friend Rachel inadvertently provided me with information that shattered my trust in Christopher completely. Rachel works as a pharmaceutical sales representative and frequently has business lunches at upscale restaurants around the city to meet with doctors and medical office managers. She called me on a Tuesday afternoon while I was